Welcome to Midnight's Edge. My name is Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge After Dark. With me today is Andre. How you doing, Andre?
I'm doing great, thank you very much. And I just returned from seeing Captain Marvel.
And that's exactly what we're here to discuss. I have of course not seen it yet. I won't be seeing it till tomorrow. You have, as you just said, a few people around the world have been, well, I guess I'm just going to use the word lucky enough to see it so far already up front. We'll find out how you feel about that and a whole lot more coming up here.
Oh,
Of
yes.
course, we're going to keep it spoiler free as possible. There may be some spoilers near the end. We're going to get to your guys' questions and super chats later down the road. But first, we're going to kick it off with a few questions for Andre, how he felt about the movie and stuff like that. And then we'll get into all the good stuff. So, starting out, Andre, what is your familiarity or history with the character of Captain Marvel? Are you really up to speed with her or the character in general before you walked into this movie?
Not as much, no, because you see that I'm aware of the existence of the modern Captain Marvel. I've seen like the covers and stuff like that, but I've never read any Danvers Captain Marvel. What I have read are the old vintage Captain Marvel stories from the 70s, the ones that were written by, oh, what's his name? The one who created Thanos. I read those stories that featured Thanos, where Captain Marvel was a guy and he changed places with Rick Jones. Those stories were pretty cool, and you could. Jim Starlin, that's the guy. Thank you. Um, you could totally tell from those stories that Jim Starlin must have been high on LSD when he wrote them, because he was all talking about how Captain Marvel was cosmically aware and stuff like that. And then the next Captain Marvel story I wrote, again, was Thanos related. That was the death of Captain Marvel, also written by Jim Starlin, when the character got cancer and succumbed to that. But since then, I haven't really read any Captain Marvel. I'm aware that there was a black woman Captain Marvel wearing a white and black suit at some point, and then I'm also aware of the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel. But this was around the time that I stopped reading Marvel comics. I've always been an avid Marvel reader, by and large. But I stopped in the aftermath of Civil War because, to me, that's when the series just became unreadable. Like, for instance, Matt Fraction's Punisher, that just made me swear off Marvel Comics for years. And it's only now recently that I've started reading some titles again, like the most recent Punisher and Conan, of course. So I go to Captain Marvel with a relatively open mind and extremely limited familiarity with the current batch of the comics, the ones that inspired the movie.
Right. And Rob would have reminded you that that's Monica Rambeau, who is the other Captain Marvel, because that's something he's brought up quite a few times that we're actually kind of surprised they didn't go with that model. Anyway, so overall, though, to this point, what has been your impression? Here we are 20 some movies in. This will be the 21st movie, right? Into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or 22nd. I even lost count now.
Yeah, I haven't counted it, but before we get into that,
Yeah.
just to answer one quick comment. End of Mysteries. Is Andre even reading this chat? Yeah, Andre is browsing it in between talking, so I'm not catching every single comment, but I try to see the most relevant ones.
Yeah, and I'm trying to catch some questions here and there, but we'll definitely get into questions later on as we get past his initial uh, feelings on the movie and all that kind of stuff. So we'll just I'm trying to grab as many as I can here in the meantime, though, but try and save them for later, and then we'll get to them when we get to that part. So again, then the question was, what's your impression overall here now that we're 20 some movies into the Marvel universe as far as the whole?
I absolutely love the MCU. It is the movies that I always wanted. When I was reading the comics when I was a kid, that's why I was reading the comics. So I absolutely can't believe that we're even getting the MCU. Sometimes I even want to pinch myself, because those are the movies that I wanted when I was a kid. It was the movies that I wanted when I was a teen, It's the movies I started getting in my late teens and early 20s, and now we get like the real deal in the MCU. So I absolutely love it. And just to say where I stand there, I'm not going to give a complete ranking of all the movies in the MCU because that's going to depend from day to day. But my three favorite ones are, in order from best to worst: Infinity War, Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, and The Incredible Hulk. Yes, I really enjoyed that movie. I know that's maybe an unpopular opinion. And my three least favorite ones, in order of worst to best, is Iron Man 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then it gets more difficult. But I guess Iron Man 3, maybe? Yeah? Yeah, I think so.
Wow. All right. So, okay. So basically now we kind of know how you feel about things and your history with the character. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding this movie. You've done a few editorials on, just a couple editorials on it.
Yeah, just a few, nothing to speak about, not compared to
Nothing
some other channels at least. So.
Well, the other thing is, though, you've actually been a little more neutral, at least
Yeah.
it seems, in your editorials, and they've been flat out your editorials about your feelings on the matters that are going on, and you're kind of straightening out some of the rumors and conspiracies and theories and all that kind of stuff that were out there. Give us a little take on how you kind of felt going into the movie, knowing all that and everything you've dealt with. And if you want to, you can give everybody a quick overview.
Certainly. I always try to take the neutral stance until proven otherwise. And what I could see, and the point that I have made clear is that, or at least I've tried to make clear, is that the controversy so far has all been about the marketing surrounding the movie, and also Brie Larson and her comments and her ability to put her foot in the mouth. So it's kind of like this meta controversy. It's not the movie itself which is controversial,
Right.
but it's the conversation about the movie which is controversial. And that is also where the toxicity lies. My hope for the longest time is that since this is a product of the MCU, that they would be able to make the best movie that they could, a movie that is not divisive, even if the marketing campaign for Captain Marvel has been. Now, the natural point to compare with there is Black Panther, because that movie was all about celebrating Africa and African heritage and the Black community. And they did it in a way where no one else was stepped on. Everyone could enjoy that movie. It was not a movie that was hating on white people or Europeans or anyone else. On the contrary, like even people who tend to be rather nationalistic could find something to enjoy in that movie, because we saw Wakanda, a really, really successful, almost alien civilization level nation. They got that way by shutting the borders, not letting anyone in, and just doing what they did best for themselves. So yeah, take that the way you want. But they were able to
have the cast of the Black Panther going out saying, "We don't want white dudes."
No, on the contrary, Michael B. Jordan, he was great. He said the movie is about being proud of your heritage and where you're from, and that's something universal. And he did great. That's exactly how you were supposed to promote something like that. And that's what I wish would have been done with Captain Marvel. But okay, so they want to champion like the more feminist cause. So then perfect, build up the women cause. I don't think anyone has any issue with that, but try to do it without going in the trap that both Ghostbusters and Star Wars have gone into, where you have to step on men and step on other particular groups in order to build up women. That's kind of what I was hoping that the movie would not do. And until it was proven that the movie did that, I decided to try to keep an as neutral a stance as possible.
Right. Right. I was just pointing out, there was a little bit difference there because I really, honestly, personally, myself, just real quick here, I don't know if Disney necessarily planned on her going out and making those kind of statements the way she did. They surely wanted to market this movie in a way that kind of was like Black Panther in a way, but not, in a way towards women, but not exclusive of other people. And I think when she made those statements was really when things kind of shifted in the narrative, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yes, exactly, because she probably only intended to be inclusive. But in so doing, using the words that she used and the way that she used them, she ended up being exclusionary. And that's the one thing that the movie has to be careful not to do. Because all of the controversy that has been leading up to the release, that could disappear if the movie itself was a fun ride that celebrated women, but without stepping on everyone else, so that everyone could enjoy the movie.
Right. Okay. So let's get past all that. So going in knowing all this, did that affect you at all? Do you think overall, or no?
What? Yeah, I can tell you what it did. It made me extra sensitive to explore the subtext, to pay really attention to what was happening on screen. And I think I picked up on quite a lot of things that's going to fly straight over most people's heads. I do believe that. Because there's a lot there in the subtext. There's a lot of subtlety message there, absolutely. And yeah, we're going to get into that later in the review.
So why don't you give us then your overall impression of the movie, like just a quick overview of how you felt about the movie, without any spoilers, of course.
Of course. I only saw it like a couple of hours ago, so it's still very fresh in my mind. There are some bits in it which are very, very good. And there are some bits in it which are very, very bad. And most of it is just very, very bland. So overall, I think that the makings of a great movie is there. But this isn't it. It's not the weakest movie of the MCU, but it's certainly in the bottom 5. At least in my estimation. Maybe even bottom 3. I have to chew on it a little bit more before I can decide on that. Well, but overall, it's like it has good, but the good doesn't cancel out the bad.
All right, so oh boy, so where do we go from here? What did you like about the movie?
Yeah, let's begin with that. Really because what I was thinking that we can do is that we can actually do that way. I can go through everything that I liked, everything that was okay, and then we can get into the things that I disliked. And then towards the end, we can get into something more specific about the subtext and the movie's political message, so that people have been warned. But yeah, let's begin with what I liked. The absolute best part of the movie was the Stan Lee tribute. That actually made me tear up a little bit. It was absolutely fantastic. So kudos for that. Was this the right movie to have that tribute in? That I don't know. But it was an absolutely fantastic tribute. Cannot praise that enough. So that was my favorite thing. My second favorite thing about the movie, which really worked about the movie itself rather than a tribute, was the first act of the movie. The first act I thought was really good. Without going into any spoilers, we are introduced to a new world that we haven't seen before. And I really enjoyed that opening of the landscape, exploring some new territory and some new scenery. And there is some level of mindfuckery going on, which I thought was very well handled. So that was pretty cool. What I liked after that is the score. Not just the musical score and the songs in the movie, which were pretty decent, but the score itself, the musical score, which was a little bit reminiscent of the Thor Ragnarok score and also the Tron Legacy score, like this synth score, which I thought really worked. So that was pretty cool. Another highlight of the movie, the absolute best actor in the movie, is Samuel L. Jackson. He basically carries the whole movie. He is excellent in it. And he is the one that lifts all of the other scenes. Every scene where he is, they kind of work because of him. Another actor who also did really good, who's been praised in early tweets and everything, is Ben Mendelsohn. His character, who might as well have been a Suliban from Star Trek Enterprise, that's kind of like how his race is handled, if you ask me. Yeah, he was really good. He is not like one of the best MCU villains ever, but a very good one. Like not Thanos level, not Loki level, but still a great character that I actually hope that we'll get to spend more time with in the future. So those are the things that I felt really worked about the movie, what I really liked. So now let's move on to what was okay, but that could have been better. Things that were, I felt, overrated. And now we're going to get to the cat. The cat looks absolutely adorable in the trailers, and the cat is in the movie, but I don't know, like it could have been done better. And again, the cat only works because of Samuel L. Jackson. He's the one who makes the cat work. So the cat is cute and everything, but more could have been done with it. And then we also get to the music, as in the selection of songs, which is pretty good. And it also furthers the political message, especially one song at the end fight scene. If it's good, yeah, it's a good song in the context. Yeah, you'll understand when you see the movie, and we'll get to it a little bit more a little bit later. And then, of course, Agent Coulson. Coulson was good. I wish that he had a bigger role. That's the one problem with that, is that I wanted to see so much more of him. That's why he was just okay instead of great, because the actor playing him is, of course, fantastic, but there should have been more of him. That's what the movie needed. And also, the friend of Carol Danvers. I forgot her name in the moment. Lashana, help me out in the comments. Anyway, yeah, her the friend, the fellow pilot. She was okay. Not nearly as good as the early tweets would have you believe, but she was okay. And now let's get into the thing.
Lashana Lynch. Just looked it up.
Yeah, that's the one. Thank you, Lashana Lynch. She was okay. According to like the early reactions, she was the best thing ever, and so was the friendship between her and Carol Danvers. There were even several articles written about how Captain Marvel doesn't need any man because she has the friendship with this character and the daughter. Those articles must have been planted. I can't imagine otherwise, because that friendship did not work at all. I did not buy it, not for 1 second. It was like a complete joke. To paraphrase Brie Larson, I don't hate women. On the contrary, I'm even married to one. And in being married to one, you sometimes have to make sacrifices. So a couple of weeks ago, when I wanted to go see something else in the cinema, we ended up seeing this movie with Jennifer Lopez. And I have to look up which movie it was. I've even forgotten what it was called. It didn't impress me that much. But anyway,
the last movie was, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Anyway, in that movie, you have Jennifer Lopez and you have Leah Remini, and the two of them are friends in that movie. And I completely bought that friendship. that was 1,000-fold as good as the friendship in this movie, which I did not believe for 1 second. And that brings us to another thing that I rather disliked about the movie. You will note that I haven't said anything about Brie Larson yet. And that's because she belongs in the dislike section. Now, to be fair, in the first act of the movie, she is good. And here's going to be a really, really mild spoiler. In the first act of the movie, she is still basically indoctrinated. She is told not to be emotional. So she is trained to be a little bit robotic, if you will, to be a little bit stiff and a little bit wooden. This is part of the character at this point. So that's fine. She was able to pull that aspect of the character off. But then later in the movie, then the mask is kind of revealed and the truth is revealed. And then there follows, I'm not going to say a breakdown, but a scene which required some kind of emotional range to pull off. And she was absolutely horrible in that scene. It's not the worst acting I've ever seen, but it's in the conversation. I think that Captain Marvel was miscast. They could have found so many other actresses that, for one thing, would have saved them all the trouble in the media, but that I also think would have done better with the parts of the movie that actually required more acting other than being the wooden soldier that she is at one point. When she's no longer that wooden soldier, then Brie Larson couldn't sell it. She really couldn't, not in my opinion. So all of the names that are frequently mentioned as people who should have been Captain Marvel instead, after having seen the movie, I agree. Brie Larson did not work.
Well, that's kind of that's going to upset some people, I'm sure.
I'm very sorry for those who are going to be upset, but I'm calling it as I see it.
But then again, you weren't really giving it a glowing review up front either. So I'm not totally surprised, I guess. We're not going to get into spoilers just yet. Did you want to start taking questions?
Yeah, do we have some questions we can take so far?
Yeah, we can start.
Some comments and reactions.
From early on, RoboBrain1000 says, Midnight's Edge, what is Captain Marvel's power level in this movie?
To begin with, very, very restricted. And then we'll get to this a little bit later. But towards the end, the power level becomes ridiculous, like Superman level.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm going to say that's Superman level.
All right. Rivers727 asked earlier on, would you say the movie is more Wonder Woman or more Ghostbusters 2016? I figured you'd like that question.
It's definitely more Wonder Woman.
And yes, Rob is in the chat. I see a few people noticed
that. It's definitely more Wonder Woman of the two, but Wonder Woman is the better movie. Wonder Woman is certainly the better character because Gal Gadot is able to sell it. So of the two, I do prefer Wonder Woman over Captain Marvel.
See, and I didn't like Wonder Woman, so oh boy. Just Reed gave us $2, and he doesn't have a question. He just had a statement. Andre is the best and most honest critic ever.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I did have a few more questions here before we get back to the chat. And Billy Laptop just gave us $10. Didn't say anything, but just gave us $10.
Thank you. That's most welcome.
Zephyr Chan asked earlier on, is it a rental rather than a must-watch in cinemas?
I do not think this movie is a must-watch. But at the same time, as I said in the beginning, it's not a bad movie. There is loads of good in it. It is an entertaining movie. So is it a must-watch? No, but it's definitely you should watch. That it absolutely is.
And of course, you can't really say if you have to see it before Endgame because we won't know until we see Endgame. So
I don't think
Unfortunately,
so.
yes.
I don't think
Seafood
so.
Diet says, or asks, sorry, Andre, how was Agent Coulson? You did touch on him a little bit earlier. Well, you didn't touch him, but on his character
He was good.
earlier.
He was good. As I said, the only problem that I had with Coulson is that there wasn't enough of him. It was way too little scenes with him because he was, other than Ben Mendelsohn and Samuel L. Jackson, he was the best part, and he has like, I don't know, single-digit minutes on screen.
All right. One of the newer questions, God asks, did you get the impression that there was a lack of dramatic tension when she gets the power upgrade and kind of feels a bit like they weren't real stakes? Sorry.
Mm. Yes. The thing is that when she got her powers, we can get back to that a little bit later, because that has to do with the subtext and the political message of the movie. And there's something that's much more important there than the stakes of the scene. So we can get back to that a little bit later. I don't want to do any spoilers of any kind this early on. So give us a few minutes and we'll get back to that.
All right. And there's a lot of people who ask what I kind of just did, which is, can you bypass it probably to get to Endgame? And you said probably.
Yeah, probably.
Devil's Advocate, or TR French gives us a $5 super chat and says, Devil's Advocate, is it Brizit? Is it Brie? Are you sure you didn't want Rob to do this? Is it Brie Larson or the directors that botched her acting scenes? Brie does have an Best Actress. Okay.
Both. I think it was both. Because the director's job is to get the best performance out of the cast. And Brie Larson can do better than this. I think it could be something with the scene. Maybe she felt ridiculous with all the sets and the costume and all of that. I don't know. I don't know exactly where the problem was, but I think it was divided between the two because there were so many things that just didn't click. So the directors are not free of blame here. But of course, Brie Larson has to shoulder some of it because she just, in my opinion, she wasn't right for the part. She was the wrong fit.
All right. Mind for Lease gives us another $5. Thank you so much. Appreciate all the info on Star Trek CBS rights. Sounds like Captain Marvel is a pass. Not a question, but a statement there. And thank you so much for that.
Yeah, again, I have to stress that I may sound negative now, and I am towards Brie Larson's performance, but there is a lot of good in the movie. That first act was spectacular.
All right. Story to Screen movie review podcast. Do you expect there to be a box office decline in the following weeks? That's a good question.
I think so. Yeah. I spoke with someone else with the movie because again, I followed this. I've done editorial, so I'm a little bit colored by it. And I spoke with some of my fellow patrons, basically. And the impression that I got is that they weren't wowed by it, but it was entertaining. They weren't as critical as me, but there were things in it that they didn't respond to very well. So I think that when that accumulates, again, the movie isn't bad. It's just so bland and a little bit mediocre.
Do you think they should have put it out before Infinity War, like I said with Ant-Man and Wasp?
Yeah, probably. I think that would have that might have been better.
Rob has a question. This is kind of related to one you answered before. Do you think the directors are afraid to give her direction, or do you think she's just phoning it in?
I wasn't there on set. I cannot say. Whatever happened, the communication, whatever communication was between them, did not result in the kind of performance that was needed for the scenes that required more than just being intentionally wooden-like and unemotional because she was instructed to be by her superiors.
Right. And I've seen maybe 3 or 4 movies with her in it, like Kong, 21 Jump Street, and just recently watched Room, which is the one she won the Oscar for. And I'll be honest, the little kid that plays her kid in that, X circles around her. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's
Yeah, I just have to answer one question here real quickly. I saw someone say, cynical Lindsay, mediocre at best. So it's basically a Ghostbusters 2016. No, it's not that far. Let's keep
Right. Right. He did answer
it's
that.
not
Yeah.
Ghostbusters level. I'm not saying that.
No.
Apart from the political message, it's above green. It's somewhere between Green Lantern and Wonder Woman, middle between the two.
We'll get into I got a question for you when we get to the spoiler kind of section, so remind me there on that. Joel Miller asks, do you think Brie Larson would be better under direction of the Russos? Like I preferred Black Panther and Civil War rather than his own movie.
Yes, I think so. I do believe so. And I have another example to go with that. And that is Black Widow. When she first made her appearance in Iron Man 2, I thought the character sucked, and I thought that she was completely miscast. But then, and again, this was Scarlett Johansson. I thought Scarlett Johansson was miscast as Black Widow based on Iron Man 2. But then, under the direction and redesign under Joss Whedon in the Avengers, whole different level. That was, yeah, like now she's one of my favorite characters in the MCU. So what a night and day difference a change in directors can do. And I seriously hope that we're going to see the same thing with Brie Larson, that the Russos will be able to get more out of her than the directors of Captain Marvel did.
Derek Taylor gives you a $2 super chat and asks, where do you rank it in the MCU? I think you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
I have to digest it a little bit more before I can give it a final ranking. But I would say, I said it's in the bottom half for sure. How bottom half? I don't know. Bottom 5, bottom 6, something like that.
All right.
So
Eric
yeah,
Kelly
bottom 5 I think is fair.
Eric Kelly asks, if he had control over one thing in the movie, what would, you change? Because he wanted me to ask you that. So he meant you. What would you change if you had control in the movie? So that's probably a good spot to probably get into kind of spoiler territory, don't you think?
Yeah, because now we're getting into the things that I felt did not work with it. One is, so I'll get back to this question here in a couple of in a minute or two. Basically, we've said before, or it has been said, that Spider-Man: Homecoming breaks the continuity of the MCU because of like when it takes place and stuff like that, and what year is this, and the relative time between events. Yes? No. Spider-Man: Homecoming does not break continuity. This movie breaks continuity really, really badly with one particular artifact that I won't spoil right here and now, but that does appear in towards the end of the movie. And this artifact, I don't know how is it that it was there at this time. It shouldn't be. I believe we've seen this artifact located elsewhere. I have to double check on that and rewatch some movies, but there is.
We're talking about a stone by chance?
We're talking about can you repeat that? I didn't hear you.
Stone by chance?
Yeah, something stone-shaped, which, according to my recollection, is located somewhere else at this time. Okay. As in bottom of the sea.
Ah, the Tesseract, yes. Gotcha. That's interesting. I gotta remember, I can't remember in Captain America when that was retrieved though either. It could have been years prior to that. Who knows?
Like yeah, because like the only way that it makes sense is if you retcon and you redate something that happened in previous movies. Then you have to do some serious retconning for continuity to line up. So in conjunction with the item that we just spoiled now. Sorry for you for that, but in conjunction with the Tesseract, there is, from what I can tell, a major freaking continuity breach.
Yeah, I think Rob's right. I thought Stark recovered the Tesseract after the war, but they couldn't find Cap. So he might have had it way early on, if that's correct. And somebody else just said the same thing.
So yeah, well then
he would have found it in either the late 40s or early 40s, somewhere in there, probably. Or
yeah, well then maybe it's not the break that I think it is. But then there is a huge piece of unwritten history in between there. So anyway, that was something I reacted to. But maybe it's not the continuity breach, but at least from my recollection, it was.
Well, at this time, it should be in the possession of Shield, then, wouldn't it be? Yeah. Anyway,
yeah, you'd think so. You'd think so. And at the time of this movie, it isn't.
Okay, yeah. According to somebody in the chat, it was 1945. It was found. So.
Yeah. Well, then there are things that must have happened in between the two, which you have to guess or read from prequel comics or something. I don't know, but the explanation, insofar as I can tell, is not in the movie. In the movie, at first glance, I think there is a continuity breach, but I could be wrong about that.
Okay. Because I'm trying to keep up with some of these questions here. Some of these are very, very spoiler laden questions. Because like one of the things that was asked was like kind of more. I'm trying to remember how I was going to ask my question earlier too, because somebody else asked nearly the same question. I'm looking for it right now. But. So you're not giving it a glowing review, and you're saying it's in your bottom 5, but compared to like other movies in the genres, like
here's the thing though, because even if it's the bottom 5 of the MCU, there are, in my opinion, no really bad movies in the MCU. So you're comparing with excellence, and again, I don't think this is that bad a movie. It does have its moments, but in the MCU, this is definitely, in my opinion, one of the weaker outings. And compared to other movies, I'm going to stick by my comparison that it's somewhere between Wonder Woman and Green Lantern. To me, it feels a little bit more like a DC movie than it does a Marvel movie, if that makes any sense.
All right. So do you think that a lot of the reviewers, is kind of based on one of the questions from before, do you think a lot of the reviewers might be paying it a bit more lip service just because they don't want to be accused of being sexist or anything?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I absolutely believe there is a Ghostbusters effect going around, with many reviewers giving it a few percent higher than they otherwise would, just for purely political reasons. And that is the final thing that I really did not like about the movie, which kind of like illustrates the point that I'm not the target audience. So let's get into the message and the subtext. After we answer Derek Taylor's $2 super chat, is it better or worse than Venom? Worse.
I actually liked Venom, so that one's.
I had fun with Venom. I kind of liked Venom. I did. It's better. Of the two, Venom is the better movie, I think.
And now you're reminding me then of kind of what my question was earlier. We got another super chat real quick. John Harvey, $5 says, "Do you feel she is so overpowered that it will overshadow the rest of the Avengers?" That was a question asked earlier as well, that I hadn't got to yet.
I'm afraid of that, yes.
So stronger than the Hulk?
I cannot say, but just based on usually the end credit scenes. I'm not going to spoil the end credit scene right now, but this is an end credit scene that, for the first time, there are two end credit scenes. The second one is fine, the one that's completely after the credits, but rather the mid-credit scene. This is the first mid-credit scene that I did not like. and that actually made me worry about Avengers Endgame.
Brado Jacko gives us $2 and asks, "Is she a Mary Sue?"
Not to begin with.
Okay.
But she will become one towards the end.
My possible spoiler question kind of leads into what you were just saying, and that was, how much of a political message is in this movie? How much is there for people when they go in and they're going to say, "Oh, I feel like I'm being, you know, lectured to," or this movie is touting the feminist agenda kind of thing, like TLJ?
Yeah. Here's the thing. The difference between this movie and The Last Jedi is that The Last Jedi was in your face. This movie is not nearly as in your face. There are some things in your face. For instance, we see, again, now we're in spoiler territory, we see some flashbacks of from Brie Larson's character, from Carol Danvers' childhood, how all the men in her life told her that she was absolutely no good. You're just a girl. Stay down. Give up. We get like montage after montage of that. And she's randomly hit on by guys that she obviously has no interest in.
That's what I was afraid of.
So yeah, you have that. Those things are in your face. But
Rob's
to me, the bigger problem with the movie is not the obvious in your face, but it is in the subtext. As I said in my earlier editorials, the controversy so far was about the conversation surrounding the movie, not the movie itself. The marketing tries to appeal to the feminist crowd, to the intersectional feminist crowd, but as I said in the most recent one, for all we know, the movie does not. I take that back. The movie does. It is subtle. It is very subtle. It is buried in the subtext. But the movie does have an extremely feminist message. The entire movie is ultimately about fighting off patriarchy. That's the whole thing. That's when Captain Marvel goes from being someone who has to control her emotions, someone who is struggling to control her powers. That's the moment that she becomes this glowing superhero. That is when she figuratively, not literally, again, this is buried in subtext, but that is when she figuratively throws off the shackles of patriarchy. That's when she gets to be the woman, the strong, independent superwoman she was always meant to be. When men are no longer holding her down.
Well, that kind of goes into this first super chat we got sitting here. Rakusa, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. If I go to, he gave us $9.99, thank you. If I go to the movie, will I feel significantly preached to or in the midst of clear SJW agenda? If not, I will definitely go see it, even if it was just an okay movie. I love your refreshing objectivism. I think you kind of just answered that, but if you want to just give another short.
Yeah, certainly. No, you. Thanks for the super chat first and foremost. No, you will not feel preached to. As I said, this is subtle. It's buried in the subtext, and by subtext, I mean that it's implied. It is not spoken out loud. It's hidden there in the actions and between the words, so to say. So that is where you have the feminist and borderline intersectional message. That's where that is. It is never spoken out loud, so you will not feel preached to. It's not like The Last Jedi that will hammer it in your face. It's going to be like some instances that there is. Some instances there will be. Like, for instance, I mentioned these montages of men telling her she's no good, laughing at her, she's going to fail, blah, 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 all that. That's one thing. And then finally, when she stands up to the representation of toxic masculinity and says, I'm not going to, well, yeah, I'm going to say it. Spoiler. She says, I don't have to prove anything to you. So that's basically, she doesn't have to prove anything to men. So you have like some things that are there, but the rest of it is buried in the subtext. So no, you won't feel preached to. And I think that the very feminist message, and it is a very feminist message, is going to go straight over the heads of most people. I think that the average viewer won't notice so much other than those few scenes.
All right, moving on with a few more super chats here. Game Guy 1210 says with $5, thank you so much. Anything that needs to be compared to Green Lantern personally raises a few red flags for me.
Yeah. To be clear though, it's above Green Lantern. I didn't say it's like Green Lantern, but it ranges somewhere between Green Lantern and Wonder Woman. By that, I mean Green Lantern was very bad, and Wonder Woman, to me, was pretty mediocre. But it has elements which are comparable to both of those movies.
Cormoran chimes in with an Australian $5, says, Captain Marvel has been out in Australia for a day now. Can't review or click the want to see on Rotten Tomatoes.
I don't know anything about that. I just see one question right now, and it's something that I agree with completely. Eric Kelly, Andre, would you have cast Catherine Winnick as Captain Marvel? And for those who do not know, that's Lagertha from the Vikings TV show. My answer to that is, oh, hell yes. I think that she would have acted circles around Brie Larson, and with her, the movie probably would have been better, because Brie Larson and her lack of pulling it off in crucial